Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast, The Hi Guy's Joints of View. My name is Chris, the Hi Guy Jacobs, and on today's episode, we are again talking to the one and only, the Mrs. Kayla, the Mrs. Jacobs. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Good, good. You ready for a good conversation today?
Yes.
Good.
It is. It's an interesting one.
It is. It is the time of the month specifically when, well, let's be honest. One of the biggest questions and concerns we get is obviously how much do we actually consume? Because, well, let's be honest. Again, as an everyday consumer, as an everyday user, you can start to see that those add up fairly quickly, as you can guess. So the real question is, how much do we consume? And that's going to lead into the topic of conversation today, because as it stands right now, as of today, we start our monthly tolerance break. Now, what is a tolerance break, you might ask?
Yeah.
Well, Kayla, let me ask you, what do you think a tolerance break is?
Well, first, you gotta really open yourself up to taking a tolerance break.
Okay.
It's not for everybody. Right? Everyone thinks that you can just keep smoking and smoking and smoking and nothing. But you eventually build a tolerance up, just like with everything else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, prescriptions, drinking, whatever it may be. You build tolerance up. And so when your body builds that tolerance up, it takes more to get to that point. That people would be like high or drunk, whatever you want to refer to it as.
Mm-hmm.
But with us, with the tolerance break, it's going to help us lower our threshold.
So basically, So basically, because we consume every day, the effects for cannabis for us aren't nearly as
predominant,
cerebral, I guess you could say, as effective as what you'd have for less consistent users or less daily users, casual users, things like that. Now, what that means is that typically by about this time every month, the missus and myself find ourselves going through probably about an ounce every couple of days, depending.
Well, this week we've gone through an ounce every 4 days.
Typically it'll get to that point right around the end of the month. But then we typically go on about a 4 to 6 day break, where we don't consume anything.
Yeah.
And this is done as a way to kind of help bring down that tolerance level, so that not only is it good for maintaining consumption rates, right? But it also helps in tailoring off some of those experiences that you had, or being able to save a lot of money, because cannabis is expensive. It's not cheap, right?
And, my brain just stopped working there. I was like, I was going to say something. But
that's ADHD for you. But the truth is, the tolerance...
it's a good time to also clean all your stuff.
That's right. So not only can we talk about, proper glass maintenance and things like that for your glassware, smokeware, things like that.
Gives your lungs a break.
Exactly. The whole concept is this. If you're an average everyday consumer like ourselves, it becomes a situation where you don't actually smoke to get high. You kind of smoke just to maintain. Go figure. We said the same thing.
Well, because that's really what we don't use it to, I just want to get high.
Yeah.
No, we don't, we're prudes. No, we'd use it to live our daily lives. It's not like we're going out there gooned.
Yeah.
But even with maintaining in our daily lives, you still need to take a break.
Well, and not only that, but like I said, it gets expensive. So because of the fact that it ends up getting to a point where you're not getting the effects from consuming anymore, so you end up consuming more, or you end up consuming additional types, which, can lead to bad trips, can lead to bad experiences over, quote unquote overdosing, things like that.
And especially if you smoke the Benjamin, that is rough on you. It's mostly THC, and usually by the time you're half done those carts, it's so harsh on your throat that, it hurts. But that's all some people do. And when you take a break from especially your Benjamin, it's going to help your throat a lot.
There becomes, absolutely. So when you look at the negative side of things when it comes to cannabis, and let's be honest, there are negatives to smoking. Doesn't matter what you smoke. as much as I'm an avid believer that obviously cannabis is far superior to most of the other things and most of the other toxins that we choose to consume, I also appreciate that there are some unknowns about it that we don't really know about. For example, long-term use, what kind of debilitating effects come from that, effects for...
Smoking a bong versus pipe.
Right, like how you choose to consume, right? Yeah. Whether you're smoking and combusting or whether you're vaping or whether you're eating. I mean, even as something as simple as how it affects the brain itself in development, right? I mean, we talk about how, cannabis has been linked to a lot of mental conditions, especially to those who consumed under the age of 25.
Schizophrenia kick in or something like that.
Right. So they talk about links and correlations between cannabis usage and things like that. So there's still not a lot known. Like, we're still having to do research, on a ton of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the majority of it comes down to something that's very, very simplistic. It's a concept. It's a product, and it's a medicine, all kind of wrapped up in one, which you really kind of have to take with a grain of salt. And I say that as an avid believer that cannabis should be enjoyed in a lot of different places. It should be free of the stigma. I also understand that there's things that we have to be cautious of. So, for example, there's the risks to consuming carcinogens. If you're smoking a joint, for example, or burning on a bong or smoking on a pipe, you're consuming carcinogens and carbons and inhaling, the actual chemicals you get from burning things, and that has been linked to cancer. So yes, there's connections to that, right?
Like with me, I stopped smoking flower mostly because I was just coughing up crap.
Well, I mean, that's exactly it. You're getting soot, you're getting carbon, you're getting all that kind of smoke and stuff into your lungs, where it can build and things like that and create irritants. Right? Just as it comes with everything else. So, is smoking perfect? No. 100% no. And I will tell you that. Same with vaping.
No.
Is there any, any way to consume cannabis that's totally free of any kind of risks? Absolutely not. But to give you kind of a basic, so is there a risk to simply drinking tap water? I mean, when we talk about,
drinking our own water.
Well, drinking well water, tap water. I mean, you look in the United States, for example, at the sheer amount of people that still have lead pipes, right, throughout the municipalities. I mean, that's a kind of a big deal. So, as much as I want to say, cannabis is totally innocent, we know that it's not, right? And I can tell you from firsthand experience, one of those main issues comes down during tolerance breaks.
Yeah.
Right? There are noticeable what they call changes or withdrawals, right? They call them withdrawals that you would have based as an avid user that we go through.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, Kayla, what are some of the things that you experience during tolerance breaks?
I just have a really hard time eating.
Okay. Eating is one of them. Yeah,
because
absolutely.
That's a huge thing why I also take cannabis, is because I can go all day without eating and just drinking coffee. And I just won't care.
Speaking of coffee.
My stomach's had enough coffee today. See? That's how it could be.
So, absolutely. So, eating is one of those things. Cannabis is a really good trigger to the munchies. I mean, that's obviously one of the things that people talk about a lot when they consume cannabis. So, that's, obviously a big thing. So, it makes it a little bit more focused for you to have to eat every day, right?
Yeah, I really have to, force myself to make sure that I'm, even if it's just a snack or something, I have to make sure I eat. Because if I don't, then I'm just...
Then she gets hangry.
Yeah, and then I get hangry.
And one of the other stipulations to a tolerance break that people report is typically feeling more on edge, right? So they feel more on edge. They feel more anxious. They feel more... triggered, more emotionally onset. So it's like it becomes a little bit less control on our emotions, which is ironic because I consume cannabis to be able to have control on my emotions and to be able to control those things. So,
but with a tolerance break, it also helps us be able to develop different coping skills for when we do go on our tolerance breaks. So,
well, that's the thing. I mean, you have to find ways to be able to live with and without it.
Yes.
Right? And I think because it's so deep in our personalities and our lifestyles, it's one of those things that we have to take a really an extra look at to make sure that it's not negatively affecting us, negatively affecting our kids.
Yeah.
The impact that it has there too, because at the end of the day, you know, the whole premise of this podcast and the whole premise of, you know, everything that I'm trying to do is to remove the stigma around it, not to add more to it, right?
Exactly.
And that's why we go through these tolerance breaks and explain what we go through too, so that if it's something that you're considering, it's something to prepare for.
And if you're going to do it for a first time, just do it slow. Like, don't just stop and not smoke any for a week, because depending on how long you've had it in your life, it can actually be really hard on your system.
It's difficult. I mean, one of the things, like I said, so they talk a little bit about
with our my first tolerance break. It was not fun.
Yeah,
so we just stopped. I was not good.
So there's a couple ways to look at a tolerance break. You can either go cold turkey, like a lot of people do. I prefer to do it that way myself, just because I feel like if I have a little bit, it's not doing what it's supposed to do, and it's just kind of continuing the streak for me. So I would prefer to go cold turkey. But for Kayla, for example, it's a little bit of a different story. Obviously, she doesn't like to deal with the negative onset of it, or like the shift, the direct shift, as much as it is. Because if you're going from smoking daily to not consuming at all, there's a massive mental shift.
There is.
Right? So you have to be mentally prepared for that kind of thing too.
And my brain can only take so much, especially with kids, work, and everything. It's just easier for me to do it like slower than just cold turkey. Yeah. So even if I have like a dab or one hoot a day, then it's good. I'm still getting my tolerance break, but I'm still...
That's a good point. A tolerance break does not have to be nothing. Yeah. A tolerance break can simply be consuming less over a longer period, right? Yeah. All that you're effectively trying to do is limit that point at the top
and bring it back
down. And bring that back down to manageable levels, right? So brain just shut off there for a second.
Just like mine.
Yeah, it was in the middle of something and then it shut off.
Hey, mine did that earlier. It's okay.
That's just what happens.
So, yeah, for me, like, I'll usually have some Reclaim left from my dab break, and I'll just have, like, one of those.
Just usually, something to kind of like, keep tide you over.
Yeah, usually in the evening so that I eat, because during the day, I can't do that because I'm usually at work, for one. And two, the kids and stuff, right? Like, I can't be sitting here on edge and, like, taking that out on the kids.
Of course.
Right? And so with me, it's just by the evening, it's just better for me to have it, because by that point, I'm exhausted. And I have some mental health issues, and I have chronic illnesses that I have to deal with daily. And so at that point, it makes it really hard for me.
She's out of spoons.
I'm out of spoons.
For those that get the reference.
I'm out of spoons by the end of the day. And so I'm still getting that whole tolerance break day, and it's still more than 24 hours usually. Yeah, 24 hours or more between when I have a dab or something.
Yeah, so really, within that 24-hour period. But it's like,
what I mean.
But it's typically like one dab, you know, kind of thing, like something to tide you over. Yeah. You know, it's never to a situation where it's like especially during a tolerance break, you want to be focused on that. You want to take that time during that break, you know, spend that time focusing on yourself, focusing on some of those mental, you know, kind of things that get you caught up with it. Some of the things that kind of keep you down.
Kind of also find some coping skills.
Yeah, absolutely. Find some ways to be able to deal with that, because it's not easy, but it is needed. Yes. Okay? They're never easy to do, because like everything else, you kind of get you get accustomed to feeling a certain way. But the truth is, the beneficial ramifications of them are much
beneficial.
It's much bigger to be able to have that influence and have that tolerance break than it is to kind of keep it lingering and then keep that extensive, you know, tolerance increasing.
Yeah, and especially with people like us, we also have to variant more often on what we're smoking as well, because like our tolerances, right?
Which is
so you always have to kind of like switch up in between things. That's why we usually have flour and concentrates on hand, so we can switch, and that's still helping our tolerance levels. right? Because
there's a whole different experience when you smoke versus when you vape versus when you're smoking concentrates and the rest. And the truth of the matter is that because cannabis is so individually experienced by a person, and the experience is entirely their own,
individual,
right? It's their own experience. It becomes a situation that says you can develop a tolerance, for example, to concentrates and be okay on flower. You can develop a tolerance to flower and then, go to the moon on concentrates.
Yeah.
So a lot of times having a varied exposure kind of gives you more capabilities and more freedoms to customize your day.
And your body is also giving it a chance to adjust as well, right? Because different things have different levels of CBD, terpenes, all this other stuff. And like we've said in future podcasts, we're going to be talking about those things. But those are going to affect your body as well. So when you do take your break, those are going to be also renewed / replaced.
Right. So just to give you a bit of a breakdown here, some of the things you want to kind of be careful about when it comes to breaks. First and foremost, you can be a little bit more on edge. You can...
Sleep.
Right. Sleep is a big deal. One of the biggest things that people experience is that getting to sleep can be a bit of a problem. So not necessarily insomnia, but I know for me, for example, the first couple of nights, I typically will get, 4 hours of sleep versus the normal 8, that's probably the worst part for me. I'm not a big fan of tossing and turning, trying to get to sleep.
Yeah.
But after those first couple of days, it's typically not a problem from there. It's typically the first 2 that are the hardest. But again, that's only because we do consume daily.
Yeah.
We're daily consumers. It's part of our lifestyle, right? There's a rhyme and reason.
Yeah.
Some people drink coffee every day. Some people smoke cigarettes every day. Well, we consume cannabis every day.
Yeah, we do.
And coffee.
Yes, coffee is
but not
essential.
cigarettes.
Yeah, mine is the eating, because I already take sleeping medicine and whatnot, so I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, no, mine is eating. Huge.
Yeah, I don't have a problem eating.
I've always had that issue, though.
Never had a problem eating.
My whole life. I've always had issues eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that came down to...
You smell coffee all over your beard.
Oh, cool. It's just what happens. It's what you do when you have a beard. What do you expect me to do? Shave it off? Heck no. Are you kidding?
If you shave it off,
I would look 12.
would be
It's
murdered.
not okay.
There would be no evidence of it either.
A bald head and a bald face makes me look 12.
Yeah, no.
Makes me look like a giant baby.
Yeah, no.
And that's not what I want.
He'd go missing, guys.
I'd go missing and we'd end up with a new lump in the yard.
No.
Do a new tree.
No.
You'd bury me under a tree. No, what you do is you bury me under a
The big barn?
No. Under a plant that is like endangered and things like that. That's what you do. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. It's all...
See, guys? She is planning. The whole thing. It's already being planned.
Lies.
Yeah? See? And now
Lies.
she's denying. Deny. Right?
All lies. All of them.
All right. So, back to tolerance break. Here, let's segue back here. So... again, some of the things you want to be careful of. Eating, if you have a problem eating, obviously be cautious of your tolerance break. Make sure you set up snacks. Make sure you set up stuff within reach, within grab, so that you can keep that fuel going. Sleep is another one, so make sure that you're turning off your computers half an hour or an hour before you go into bed, turning off your phone, turning off all that blue light, relaxing yourself, giving yourself the best chance you can to getting into sleep. Okay?
We all know that doesn't happen.
I know, but I'm just trying to give advice on what to do. Okay?
Go to bed with your TV on. You'll
That's what I do.
eventually fall asleep.
Well, exactly. The sound will help you get there. But also give yourself
Grace.
give yourself the break that you need. Not a tolerance break, but like give yourself the benefit of the doubt. You're going to be a little bit on edge. You're going to be a little bit antsy. That's totally fine. Just understand that so that you can digest it and break through it by yourself. Do you know what I'm saying? So don't be so hard on yourself during a tolerance break, because a lot of times you might not be able to help it yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Always have a tolerance break buddy.
That's right. Have someone you can yell and bitch at. You know what I mean? Because that works.
Because they understand. They're actually going through the exact same thing you are. So, you can be bitchy with each other and, make sure you guys set each other up for your snacks and whatnot.
Now, people then turn around and ask me, well, if we have to take tolerance breaks, what's the purpose of doing it in the first place? Like, why do you have to do it if you know you have to do tolerance breaks? And the real answer to that is cannabis really is that special. It's not like anything else on this planet. There is something magical. There is something deeper seated than what we think it is. There is something that connects us more than it does divide us. And I believe that to be cannabis. That is one of those things that regardless of your heritage, regardless of your background, regardless of where you come from, the one thing that can all connect us is that cannabis doesn't care. It doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't care about your own personal things. It doesn't care about your beliefs. Doesn't care about your politics. Doesn't care about your skin color.
It just wants to be smoked.
That's right. It just wants to be in you.
It's consumed.
And the funny part is your body wants it there too. Whether we can, and we, of course, we can argue back and forth on whether the endocannabinoid system is specifically designed to, to match with the cannabinoids that are there.
It's not. They're just similar.
Well,
in the sense of different cannabinoids.
Right. So this becomes my argument. So we can either say that the endocannabinoid system within the humans evolved this way naturally. We can say that it was designed this way if you're religious. We can say a lot of different things. But the point is, there is a connection between the cannabinoids found in the THC cannabis plant and the endocannabinoid system that we have within our body. All right? The fact that we have these receptors specifically paired for these types of compounds means to tell me there is a much deeper connection than what we think there is. And so is it worth it to go and spend 3-4 days being a little bit uncomfortable every single month?
It's worth it at the end.
It is for us. Yeah. It is for us. It might not be for everybody. Don't get me wrong. It might not be for everybody.
And sometimes even if you can only make it a day. Hey, you tried.
Yeah.
And then next time,
2 days.
Maybe you'll make 2 days. Because I know it was rough going 4 days.
It's a hard thing to do, but when you come through and when you're done, you feel better.
Yes.
Like it's a weird experience, but you feel accomplished. And then
you get to reward yourself.
The first time you consume, you're going to the moon. It makes it a little bit easier. So there's a little bit of a reward.
Reward yourself.
That's right.
Celebrate.
There's a reward at the end.
You made it through your tolerance break. Now you get the reward. Here is a joint.
A joint or a bong or some
something.
Edibles or
just something.
A fat dab. I could go for a fat dab.
Yeah.
I got a couple of days though. Got a couple of days.
Still, yeah.
But I will reward myself juicily when we are done.
Juicily?
Juicily. It's going to be juicy.
Juicy? Like juicy fruit juicy? Or
I think,
just like juicy? Juicy?
Like I think it might be the time when we actually drop a 1 gram dab.
Oh my god.
We haven't done it yet.
We'll do it. Christmas. That'll be our Christmas present.
Christmas present to each other. A 1 gram dab. I'm down. You got it here first, folks. On the podcast, Highguy's Joints of You. On Christmas, we are each doing a 1 gram concentrate dab live on stream for you. Yes.
It'll be fun.
I said.
You can join us and have one with us. Enjoy wizard time.
Well, hopefully by then, the plan is hopefully by then that we'll have a better situation and a better setup. So we will be looking at doing some live streams. We will be looking at bringing in some of the public. We will be looking at doing some of these kind of events and having, some kind of get-togethers in the community. Because obviously, as we've mentioned, this podcast does 2 things. It's here to educate the population on cannabis and obviously all the things related to cannabis.
Yeah.
Right? The legal systems, the regulations we deal with. The trials and tribulations of opening up a cannabis dispensary, you name it. But this podcast is also here as a way to advertise the company that we're building, the cannabis dispensary and the basically THC Emporium,
Which we've been promoting.
which you can get, where you can hopefully eventually get absolutely everything cannabis based, whether it's for the culture and clothing and hats and things like that, or whether it's cannabis itself or smoking attire, or, even if it's a place you just want to come hang out and talk and learn about cannabis, or, sit down on the podcast yourself, there'll be tons of opportunities to do that. And it's all done through this whole platform that we're developing. So
yes,
if you can share this podcast with your friends, get it out there, let people know about it, especially in Saskatchewan, especially in Canada, especially in small towns. Let's get it out to as many people as we can. Let's get the stigma changed as quick as we can.
Yeah, and our goal is to educate you better about the products and how... Oh, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's about removing the unknown.
Yeah.
I want people to be comfortable when they come into our shop. I want them to understand
that you're not taking this lightly.
Well, not only that, but that it doesn't matter what their experience is.
Yeah.
Right? Every person is treated with the same amount of respect, with the same amount of information, with the same amount of gusto, so that, like I said, we can remove this issue culturally that's facing this plant, this medicine, this drug, for those who want to call it that.
Well, and the difference between the shop that we're wanting to open versus all the other dispensers around is the education.
Right.
Because he can get super hyper focused on different things when it comes to cannabis, the cannabinoids, all of this and that. And so, in my opinion anyways, his knowledge is more important than the product in the store itself. Because people, when he was working at the store in town, came just for him. And they never left with the wrong product. They try new stuff. I know I tried new stuff that I didn't think I'd like. And everybody knew. Excuse me, I just spit. Everybody came in just for him. And the knowledge that he has. Because,
It's literally because it's been part of my life since I was 13.
Yeah.
It's something that is so ingrained with who I am. And I blame a lot of it on my mental issues, right? My ADHD and my what could be autism. Because I look at the treatment of things and I look at the treatment of people very much the same way.
Yeah.
So I, for example, can't stand injustice. I can't stand imbalance. I can't stand inequity. Things should be equal. Things should be balanced. Things should be, treated with more respect. And I think the problem is that we live in a time now where it's not necessarily about what you know, it's about what you sell. And I can't stand that premise. No offense.
Or how much THC you can get.
No offense, but capitalism sucks. I'm not a fan. So everything that we're doing is not only about creating a place where you can come and get the information that you want, but I also am trying to develop it in a way so that it's not based on the capitalistic system that we have that demands top dollar for everything. I want to be able to provide a community with top grade product, top grade information, top grade, culture at bottom grade prices in a situation where not only can they afford it, but they can take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And if they want to learn more, it's there. It's available.
Right.
It's not, someone's not going,
Right.
And I get that a lot when I go to the stores. They're like, oh, what are you looking for? I'm like, I need a sativa or a hybrid, and that's about it. And then they never know anything else.
It's a very...
And I'm like, but you're supposed to help me.
Right. So it becomes a situation where in the industry, the bud tenders themselves have to take it upon themselves to do research.
Yeah. It's not offered.
Because it's not pressed. It's not pushed. Only because, and this is, again, this part is my own personal opinion, okay? A lot of it has to do with the fact that our government has a different perspective on it. So the information that's readily available, right? So I'll give you a prime example. While I was working in the store, they would provide us with literature from the government that we are required to tell people about, mandated to explain, or even hand out to brand new customers. Okay? And a lot of this was propaganda that is not safe to the culture. It breeds a lot of the same kind of stereotypes that we were dealing with a lot in the 1960s. So when they were dealing with reefer madness and they were dealing with all the risks that are associated with that type of thing. So a lot of the research that they press, or the propaganda that they push, is less to do with the actual in-depth research and more about their message that they're trying to push. Well, that's not what I want to do. That's nothing that I want to do, which means that I'm already going to be bumping heads against the government and their regulations based on what they think is better versus what I think is better. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of that kind of, friction happening. But that's what this is all about. You're creating friction for the sense of breaking down the stigma that has been so, fixed and foundated around our entire culture. Yeah. We need to do something to eliminate that stigma. And if that means that I have to spend 4 days a month pissed off at the world, guess what? I'm going to do it. Because at the end of the day, it's more beneficial. Yeah. And if it means that I got to bump heads with the government in order to create a place that's beneficial for everybody, so be it. Welcome to 2024.
Yeah. It just helps us help other people too. If we've gone through it and we've done it, then we can tell people and share experience. But if we haven't done it and we go up to people and you're like, you need to take a tolerance break, they're going to be like, well, what do you know?
Yeah. And
right?
It's like anything else. I mean, the more that you're comfortable within within what you're talking about. So we used to sell furniture, for example.
Yeah.
And the same type of thing. We'd spend a long time researching product all the time. And only when you knew the product well did you actually have a capability in selling it well.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing. So even in this type of thing, because I've spent so much time looking at it, because we've spent so much time researching it.
Yeah.
And this has become our hyper focus. This is exactly what we're trying to do. Change that dynamic for everybody else and their opinions based on the information they may have gotten previously or where they're getting it from.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Because everything's just kind of mixed everywhere and there's no real proper information because it hasn't been researched. No one's taken the chance or time to look into everything, and there are different strains. Like, it's an old world, but it's still very new, especially with all the new stuff.
So that's a really good point. So when you look at cannabis, for example, cannabis has been in the human anatomy, but has been the human culture and society for literally thousands of years. Some of the first recorded evidences of talking about cannabis for medicinal uses or recreational uses, we're talking 3,000 to 5,000 years BC. Okay,
yeah, so it's been around for a long time.
But you do make a really good point because of how advanced technology is now. I mean, over the last 100 years compared to over the last 10 years, technology has advanced.
Yeah.
I mean,
different ways
exponentially.
To express,
right?
We used to just smoke flower.
So
that was it. That was all.
And you never knew what your percentage was. Now we have details on how to get, we can literally master growers are out there growing cannabis plants at 30% THC.
Yeah.
Where 30% of the weight of the plant is THC. Well, that's unheard of 20 years ago. That's unheard of 10 years ago. Right? So because we're able to get such high concentrations now because the technology is there, it is on us to do that extra research, to go that extra step, to see exactly what we're able and capable to do.
And even I'm sure eventually we'll be able to sit down and talk with some of the local producers here in Saskatchewan.
I do want to talk with some of them. Absolutely.
Because they're going to have just as much knowledge of the new world of cannabis, right? And I think that's where the tolerance breaks need to happen, is in the new cannabis world.
Right.
Versus back in the day.
That's also
because everything's wholly different than it used to be even 10 years ago.
Yep, it's
we've
true.
been married 14 years.
14 now.
And for the first 5-6 years of our marriage, we only smoked flower.
Pretty much.
It's just been in the last
decade.
5 years.
It's been about a decade.
Because we started right before we moved from Calgary.
We had the special vape.
Yeah.
In Edmonton.
We got Calgary.
We had it in Edmonton.
Whatever. Either way, we had one. And that's when we started. We started it with flour, and then we got concentrates and stuff.
Only when we were given the opportunity to.
Yeah.
But here, again, this is another good point, right? Take the chance. Go out and experiment. Have some fun. It is a great, great, great product, but do it slowly.
And always have a buddy.
Yeah, don't do it by yourself.
An experienced buddy.
Don't do it by yourself.
Don't do it by yourself. It's never fun.
Or just be the experienced buddy. Go get the experience. Be the experienced one.
I personally suggest to have a buddy with you. I hate smoking alone, so that doesn't help any.
That's true. That's true. Well, not to mention toking on a joint by yourself just feels weird.
Yeah.
You know? It's meant to be passed.
A Benjamin, not so much, but a joint.
Like a joint? Yeah. Well, it's almost like you're on a time limit. You have to smoke this within this time frame. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
A Benjamin I can put down and wait. But a joint, you light it and it's going.
There, it's
you know
gone.
what I mean?
That was like the one we tried to light last night.
That didn't start.
That didn't start. I was like, what the hell? The ash is coming on. Like, it was fucking dumb.
Yeah. It's just unfortunately how it goes. But that's a celebration before the step into hell of a tolerance break. And then we're going to have a nice welcome out of it into a beautiful experience this weekend I can't wait for.
November 1st.
Which is going to be a beautiful, beautiful time to unveil exactly what happens after a tolerance break. So I hope you tune in for us on that time. It'll be one hell of a session. We may even just go over all the stuff that we've purchased and picked up and talk a little bit about it. Maybe just have a relaxed sesh. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a nice
chit-chat,
little relaxed chit-chat.
I can't go live on TikTok yet. I don't have enough followers, so...
Well, if you haven't yet, follow our TikTok.
The Misses.
The Misses.
And then our Instagram is THC Emporium. So... I'll be posting more on the Instagram here. I've been mostly posting on TikTok. So make sure you come check us out, because once I'm able to go live on either platform, we'll start doing it there as well.
Yep,
and you
absolutely.
can join us.
Absolutely. But that being said, folks, that is going to end it for this wonderful episode here. We have been recording for a fair enough time, and I believe that we have hit on all the important points in regards to tolerance breaks. If it sounds like I'm a little on edge, it's because I am, and that's totally acceptable. It will be treated again back in the start of November, so I thank you all for hanging out. That being said, if you'd like to catch the video episode, video version of this podcast, it'll be up on youtube.com/@TheHighGuy420, and it will be out on Friday, so look forward to that. If you are catching this on Apple Podcast or on Spotify, I'd like to thank you very much for tuning in. And obviously, I ask you very much to share this around to as many people as we can so we can get the information out there and help to break down that stigma one voice at a time.
And in the comments, drop any questions or ideas
Questions,
that you might have.
Questions, concerns, or any kind of things that you might be sitting on yourself. Things that you'd like to know about, don't hesitate. We are always open for conversation from there.
Or things we can try.
Oh, I am down to try new things.
I am very down to try new things. So,
right.
Let us know in the comments.
Down in the comments below. That being said, folks, thanks very much for tuning in. That is it from the High Guy and the Missus. Love, peace, chicken grease. And until next time,
stay lifted.